Assalamu alaikum. Today I want to share information about the life and literary career of Christopher Marlowe. He was a renowned Renaissance dramatist who is only next to Shakespeare in his contribution to Elizabethan theatre. But before we begin, I must tell you that Christopher Marlowe died at a young age, and many scholars and historians are of the opinion that had he been alive, he would have been more productive than many writers. Our discussion of Marlowe will be purely academic and to the point, and we won't be spending time in dealing with matters that may not interest students. When we examine the life events of Marlowe, we come to know that his father was, by profession, a shoemaker. Marlowe got his school education at King's School in Canterbury. Then he attended Corpus Christi College, Cambridge. During his master degree, he would remain absent, and therefore the authorities were reluctant to award his degree. The Privy Council had to intervene to convince the university for the award of the degree. Some historians believe that one reason of his absence from classes was his engagement with the Secret Service, which also justifies the council's intervention. Now we try to interpret his outlook and approach to life. It is said that he was atheistic in many ways and would delight in blasphemy. This becomes evident when in his later years documents recovered from Thomas Kidd were associated with him. We can say that he was less religious and more secular. He was also influenced by the Renaissance spirit and the philosophy of humanism. He believed in men's power and their potential to change the world. These qualities are also reflected in his plays, and we see him advocating the centrality of mankind in deciding their destinies. When authorities arrested Thomas Kidd, the charge was the recovery of certain objectionable documents from his lodging, and when tortured, Kidd revealed that they belonged to Marlowe. Subsequently, Marlowe was arrested, and you must note here that he had been sharing lodging with Kidd in the later part of his life. Marlowe was, however, released on bail, but he could not live longer and received wounds in a scuffle with Ingram Fraser. It is hoped that you have now a fair idea about his life and education. Now we discuss his literary career in the light of examination of his two important plays. We start with Tamburlaine the Great, which was Marlowe's creation as a dramatist in two parts. The first part covers Tamburlaine's life and achievements till his marriage, while the second part narrates the story till his death. Please remember that the play is about Tamburlaine, who was a 14th century conqueror of Asia and India. Primarily a shepherd, his eloquence and bravery enabled him to win the crown of Persia. His life was full of adventures, and once in power, he conquered Turkey and Egypt. He would be ruthless in dealing with his opponents and would spare no one's life. He, however, spared the life of the Sultan of Egypt only when the Sultan's beautiful daughter asked for the same. She then became a wife of Tamburlaine. If we go to the second part of the play, Tamburlaine kept on extending his conquests and established himself as an invincible conqueror. Regarding his brutalities, or you can also say his desire to give expression to his power, he burnt down the city in which his wife had died. He ordered every Babylonian drowned, and he also burned Islamic books. And then comes a time when he finds none to oppose him. This makes him dream of leading his army against the powers of heaven. Overall, the play reveals how masculinity was perceived in the Elizabethan era. Unaffected by the petty things in life, focused on war, violence, and conquering. Being a play written in the Renaissance period, Tamburlaine represents the human who rises above his status given through birth. Even if the gods remain important figures in the plays in that period, humans are able for the first time to rise above the status that they originally had. We can say that Tamburlaine proves as powerful as a force of nature, but he still runs up against the limitations imposed by his material body and the necessity of limiting his desire to specific objectives. Marlow, in this sense, highlights the limitations humans suffer from when they find themselves helpless to avert disease or old age or death. We can also interpret Marlowe's moralistic intentions as was traditionally associated with morality plays. For instance, the death of Tamburlaine in the play points to the moralistic demand that evil and greed be punished. Even if Marlowe raised his character to an almost godlike position, the religious mentality of the time dictated that excessive pride was a sin against God, and that such a character could not remain in a position fit for a god. Another important play and a masterpiece of all time is the Tragical History of Dr. Faustus. Here, the scholarly Dr. Fostus is dissatisfied with the limits of traditional knowledge. He therefore turns to practice magic. I mean black magic. He summons Mephistopheles, who is actually the devil's associate, and Dr. Faustus offers his soul to him in return for remaining in his service for 24 years. When the deal is finalized, Faustus, with the help of the devil, starts traveling different places and makes himself invisible when required and plays tricks upon those he encounters. With the deadline fast approaching, Faustus is overcome by fear and remorse. He begs for mercy, but it is too late. At midnight, a host of devils appears and carries his soul off to hell. In the morning, the scholars find Faustus's limbs and decide to hold a funeral for him. Now, if we try to critically examine the action, it is a religious play where Faustus commits an act called sin, which is contrary to the will of God. The deal that he makes with the devil is a sinful act, and in Christianity, the possibility of redemption is always open to him. All that he needs to do, theoretically, is ask God for forgiveness. The play also offers countless moments for Faustus to return to the right path, but in vain. In the Christian framework of the play, one can also argue that true greatness can be achieved only with God's blessing. By cutting himself off from the creator of the universe, Faustus is condemned to mediocrity. He has gained the whole world, but he does not know what to do with it. The play also includes debating the relative value of the medieval and the Renaissance world. In our previous lectures, we had discussed the viewpoint of theocentrism and anthropocentrism. The medieval world placed God at the center of existence, while Renaissance had emphasis on the individual. Faustus's desire for magic may be interpreted as an escape from the suffocating experience in the tradition-bound medieval society. He therefore finds magic a source and a means to make himself invincible. His desire also reflects his longing for individual inquiry, opposed to the medieval model that held tradition and authority as the key to the essence of life. These few bits of information about Marlowe's plays, I hope, would make sense, and you may now be able to study Marlowe more closely. We have this much for today, and I would therefore stop here. If you have any question or if you find any confusion regarding what has been said, you may post your comments. We will have the next lecture where we will try to explore the life and career of William Shakespeare. Until then, I would request you to take good care of yourself and stay tuned. Thank you very much for your precious time.